Today, Devarsh is in very bad shape. He is lying on a bed for past 8 years. He cannot eat anything. He cannot sit at his own. He cannot interact. He doesn't recognize his parents. He cannot speak. If those two doctors, without qualifications, if they can damage my child, they are equally dangerous to other children who come to Fortis hospital. It is unfortunate that even today they are working. I mean, some law and order should be there. Already there are enough protection for the doctors in place, where it is very difficult and I would say almost next to impossible to prosecute a doctor for medical negligence. But in a case where doctor is lacking in qualification, then I would say there is no scope that any advantage should be given to him. And I am really hurt to see that in the top hospital of Delhi, where people go spend money beyond their affordability, and they never check who is going to treat the child or patient. They only trust the hospital. They say, all right, the hospital we are going is the best hospital. And thereafter, what happens? The hospital hands over the patient to a doctor who is not even qualified. And I would ask myself one thing: if I, as a parent, would know that these doctors are unqualified, would I take my child? I would never take my child to such a hospital. Then my other patient should go because they are ignorant. That should not happen.
Hello everyone. Today I'm joined by Mr. Sachin Jain. Mr. Sachin Jain has been in a fight since the last 8 years to get justice for his son. Mr. Sachin claims that his son has suffered from medical negligence. Hello, sir. Sir, please can you tell me what exactly happened in regards to your son? How did he suffer from a brain injury?
So actually, my wife had gone to Fortis hospital for a delivery. So it was 12th of August 2017. So on that day, after the delivery, the hospital took a decision that the child is fine although, but as a matter of precaution and preterm care, they will shift the child to NICU, that is neonatal ICU of the hospital. And we were fine with that because the decision is always of the hospital and doctors how the patient has to be treated. So although there was no prenatal complication with the child was all fine. So they kept the child in ICU for around 11 days. In the ICU, he was treated by two doctors. One is Dr. Vivek Jain, who claims to be a neonatologist, which is a super specialization. He is also the HOD in Fortis and also the director. And along with him was another doctor who also claimed to be a child specialist, and his name is Dr. Akhilesh Singh. So something happened in the 12 days of hospitalization that of course we never knew. But they discharged the child on 12th day with a discharge summary which says that the neurological condition of the child is fine. They specifically say that in the discharge summary. Thereafter, while at home, there were certain events of child having seizure kind of things. We reported the matter back to Dr. Vivek Jain, who said there is nothing to worry about. And thereafter, we stopped actually looking at that aspect, which was a bit unnatural. After 8 months, the child regressed all his milestones. He stopped recognizing us. And that was the time when we consulted a pediatric neurologist outside Fortis, not in Fortis, but she is a very competent doctor from AIMS. There certain brain tests were conducted, and those brain tests indicated that the child had in fact suffered brain injury sometimes around his birth. So if I see the period prior to the birth, when the child was still in the womb, At that time, there was no complication. During the delivery, they confirmed that there was no complication and the child was fine. So something went wrong in these 12 days of hospitalization when the child was under the care of Dr. Vivek Jain and Dr. Akhilesh. Now, as the fight was going on, it so happened sometimes in February 2023 that the learned magistrate, which was seized of the FIR, directed the investigating officer to collect the qualification certificates of these two doctors. When the same was done, we came to realize that neither of them is a specialist even, and they're practicing a super specialist, giving life-threatening treatment to newborn babies. So we immediately filed an application before the Honorable High Court, and the High Court took cognizance of it and directed the National Medical Commission and Delhi Medical Council, along with both these doctors, to file their reply as to what is the matter, why we are alleging that their qualification is lacking. Unfortunately, even that point in time, the regulatory bodies tried to give somewhat vague replies. Although, if somebody reads the reply with technical skill and knowledge, one can make out that both the doctors are unqualified. So thereafter, I collected all the evidence and put it before the court. But unfortunately, cases take their own time.
Yes.
Matter is still pending. So I had this thing in my mind. If those two doctors without qualifications, if they can damage my child, they are equally dangerous to other children who come to Fortis hospital for high-end treatments. So I made a representation to the CBI saying that I have complete evidence. These doctors are unqualified. You please stop them. Along with the complaint against Fortis and these two doctors, I also made NMC and Delhi Medical Council as accused parties, because my allegation is that both these regulatory bodies are protecting these doctors. Despite knowing that they are not qualified, they are trying to protect them. So I filed complaint before the CBI. CBI, however, transferred my complaint to National Medical Commission. Although National Medical Commission itself is a person against whom the allegations were made in the complaint. The National Medical Commission in turn sent my complaint to the Delhi Medical Council.
Okay.
So the Delhi Medical Council wanted certain clarification from me sometimes in April 2025. I mean, only a month back.
Yeah.
And I supplied them whatever information they wanted. So now, by way of a order received only day before yesterday, they have restrained these two doctors from practicing as super specialist. And they have issued letter in this regard, an order to the Fortis and these two doctors, and a copy has been sent to me. But I tell you, this is very unfortunate. If unqualified doctors or unskilled doctors, they are going to handle life-threatening diseases with newborn child, then it is something very serious which our law has to look into, and people should avoid going to such doctors for their serious treatments.
Okay.
So this is my concern. We don't want anything for ourselves, but we only want two things. First of all, justice for Devansh, who has suffered brain damage. Today, Devansh is in very bad shape. He is lying on a bed for past 8 years. He cannot eat anything. He cannot sit at his own. He cannot interact. He doesn't recognize his parents. He cannot speak. So, one thing is this: we want justice for Devansh. Secondly, we want that they should stop practicing as specialists because it is dangerous for public health. Any other thing, please?
So, sir, so from this, I take that since the last 8 years, your son has been suffering and you have been in a fight. So you mentioned that there are these two doctors, Dr. Vivek and Dr. Akhilesh. So you mentioned that they are lacking in their capabilities and their qualifications. Could you please elaborate on what specific areas, what the specific issue was?
So, if we talk about Dr. Akhilesh, he is practicing as a consultant and as a pediatrician in neonatal ICU.
Okay.
So, a person who is practicing in that capacity at least has to be an MD. That is a postgraduate degree he must possess. But when the court asked him to produce his documents, other than MBBS, he produced 3 certificates where he has done diploma. So, diplomas from some private institutes. The National Medical Commission and Delhi Medical Council, both of them have categorically stated that these diplomas are not recognized as valid qualifications. He is only an MBBS and he cannot practice as a specialist.
Okay.
But even today, he is practicing as a specialist. This is very unfortunate. Coming to Vivek Jain.
Yeah.
Vivek Jain did his MBBS sometimes in 2004. Then he went to UK. And there he joined a membership course which we call as MRCPCH, a member of Royal College, Royal College, Pediatrics and Child Health.
Okay, okay.
So it is an 8-year course. It has a proper module that one has to do 4 levels of studies and then give a final exam, take a completion certificate, and then he become a specialist in UK. Now, Indian law says in 2008, the government of India issued a notification which says that a person who has acquired any qualifications from UK, so whatever recognition he is getting there for that qualification, he is equally competent to practice in India without any restrictions or further examination. So what Vivek Jain has done, Vivek Jain, instead of spending 8 years in UK and complete his MRCPCH, he left the course after 2 years. So after 2 years, you get a entry-level certificate, right? Like if I tell you, when suppose somebody is doing engineering,
Yeah.
So after 1 year, I mean, you get some certificate. So that does not mean that you become an engineer or doesn't mean you become a lawyer. So he gets one certificate after 2 years. That is only as a entry-level certificate. Means you have entered for taking training for MRCPCH and now you can do other 3 levels and complete the training and become a specialist. So after 2 years, he left the course and came back to India. He joined Fortis and he, on the very initial stages, he was made neonatologist in 2010 itself. And when this thing happened in 2017, like in our case, there was a brain damage. Then when we started filing cases, then it appears that retrospectively, he got himself enrolled as a super specialist in 2016. Imagine a certificate which was taken by him, which should 2007 or 10, whatever, I don't remember the exact date.
Okay.
He should have entered those qualifications in India when he was practicing since 2010 in Fortis at that point in time. But no, he doesn't do that. He enters those additional qualification of MRCPCH UK in 2016, belatedly after 6 years. And when we look into these certificates on the basis of which he enrolled himself as a specialist and super specialist, those qualifications are nothing. Now, if you look at the letter of the DMC, which has been issued, so the order has been issued to restrain them, it appears that they have made an inquiry from General Medical Council UK, which also shows that even GMC has confirmed that he is not a specialist. So besides having these evidences on record and other materials that have supplied, it is unfortunate that even today they are working. I mean, some law and order should be there. Already there are enough protection for the doctors in place, where it is very difficult and I would say almost next to impossible to prosecute a doctor for medical negligence. But in a case where doctor is lacking in qualification, then I would say there is no scope that any advantage should be given to him.
So,
And
sorry, sir. Please
and
continue.
according to my understanding, which I can give you evidence on that, if any doctor exceeds his specialization, then he would be called a quack. Quack doesn't mean that you do not have even the MBBS degree. Quack means if you are not a qualified surgeon, for example, you have done your MBBS, but you have not done studies in surgery. You have not become a surgeon. You are not an MS. And you are conducting surgeries. Then you are a quack.
Okay.
Or you are a dentist or a BMS and doing surgeries, you are a quack. So they are quacks. And I am really hurt to see that in the top hospital of Delhi, where people go spend money beyond their affordability, and they never check who is going to treat the child or patient. They only trust the hospital. They say, all right, the hospital we are going is the best hospital. And thereafter, what happens? The hospital hands over the patient to a doctor who is not even qualified. And what aggravates the situation? I can understand till 2023, the hospital would not know these technicalities. Let us imagine for a moment the hospital doesn't know. But now, when 2023, everything I have placed on record, there is ample opportunity for the hospital to at least sack them, not to play with the lives of the patients like this.
So, sir, given in your petition, you mentioned that unfit employees were being used in the neonatal ICU. And also, in regards to the Delhi Medical Council and the National Medical Commission, did inquiries on these two doctors. So, this clearly vindicates your stand, right? So, do you think that the question arises that other patients, other families also must have suffered these issues? So, do you think that there should be a larger inquiry in regards to this matter, and how should it be carried out?
So, in fact, I have sent a reply to the Delhi Medical Council on this order, asking them to immediately terminate their license to practice, one, to initiate criminal action against these two doctors, and to recommend action against Fortis Hospital. And most importantly, there should be a comprehensive investigation as to the injury or death suffered by other patients when treated by these two doctors over the period of time. There has to be a complete investigation on that. It is a very serious matter. And I would say if a patient dies in the hands of such doctors, it would not be a death by negligence. It would be a culpable homicide, where knowingly a person who is not a doctor is handling a child who is on the serious condition, on the verge of almost death. If he is being treated by somebody who is unfit, unqualified, ineligible, then there has to be a prosecution for culpable homicide and not medical negligence. Negligence is a different thing altogether. It is oversightedness. Like, I am competent to treat, but I have done something wrong. But here is a case where you're not competent to do that, and you're doing that continuously. So, in my thoughtful process, I would say that there has to be proper investigation on the number of other deaths or injuries taken place, and their license should be immediately terminated.
These
And
specific
people
doctors.
should be stopped from going to this hospital under these two doctors.
Okay.
There is no second opinion about that. It must immediately happen.
So,
And
sir,
I would ask myself one thing: if I, as a parent, would know that these doctors are unqualified, would I take my child? I would never take my child to such a hospital. Then my other patient should go because they are ignorant. That should not happen.
So taking from your case, we can assume that Fortis and many other hospitals must have also done something like this. They must have hired unqualified individuals.
Yes.
So unfortunately, there is no official mechanism which which grants these credentials to these doctors. So what must the government do in terms of policy drafting?
See, we have filed a public interest litigation referring to the case of Devarsh Jain, requesting the court that there has to be some mechanism
Okay.
by which a patient, before approaching a doctor, has a means to analyze the eligibility and qualification of that doctor. Now, people are very careful. They have technology at their command. So most of the people, they try to search online also what kind of people they are going to meet when things about health comes into discussion. So now problem is the medical councils. They don't want that transparency. They only say that the doctors put certificates in their chambers. But if you go to corporate hospitals, you won't find all the doctors putting certificates and those certificates hanging on the top of the wall. Once the patient goes inside, taken the and he has taken the admission, who is going to take those certificates from there? There has to be some mechanism. And court has entertained our PIA. Court has directed them to find out how a patient would know the eligibility of a doctor before whom he is going.
Hmm.
So we believe that there has to be some holistic opinion there has to be public opinion on this. There should be some judicial directions. And most importantly, there has to be positive will on the part of regulatory bodies to bring transparency.
Okay.
Unless there is a transparency, people would keep going big hospitals, being ignorant who is going to treat them. Because it is not the brand only which treats a patient, it is the doctor ultimately who treats the patient.
So since in the last 8 years you have went through this, and your son has also been suffering. So how has the challenge? How has it been a challenge, and how difficult has it been for you, both you and your wife as well? How have you been?
So it is something which really cannot be explained in words. It is very miserable to see your own child, in such a medical condition, knowing that he will never recover. And what hurts more is that this situation was unavoidable. It was avoidable. If he had gone to some proper doctor, maybe today he would have been a healthy child going to his school. But when we see both these things, the miseries we are facing, the pain the child is facing, every moment of his life, and the kind of life these doctors who have spoiled the life of this child, then we really feel hurt. And we feel that if even in this case we don't get justice, then I think people will lose confidence in the administration of justice, because this is a case which is so patent that the justice must happen both to the child and other children who must be suffering. And there should be some judicial mechanism developed to stop these things happening from future, be it Fortis or other hospitals. Maybe other hospitals would be doing similar things. There should be something should be done.
So my last question to you is, how is Devash actually doing? Like
So
how?
Devarsh is not actually improving,
Hmm.
and seizures are there going on. And our doctors have also told us that this cerebral palsy thing, this is not curable. And I mean, we don't see any light on the other side of the tunnel. Like, we have to live with this. The only satisfaction that can come to us is by getting justice for Devarsh and for maybe other so many patients who would be suffering at the hand of these two doctors.
Okay. So Thank you for sharing your experience with us, sir. I appreciate it, and I hope a speedy and miraculous recovery to
Thank you.
Devash and good mental well-being to you and your wife.
Thank you very much.